What is the most uninformative statement that people are inclined to make? The opposition team is small but articulate. Socrates and Immanuel Kant, arguably the two greatest philosophers of all time, voted with their feet, rarely leaving their respective hometowns, but the greatest hater of travel. Such talk resembles academic writing and reports of dreams, forms of communication driven more by the needs of the producer than the consumer. Travel gets branded as an achievement: see interesting places, have interesting experiences, become interesting people.
Chesterton believed that travel, far from putting us in touch with humanity, divorced us from it. Travel turns us into the worst version of ourselves while convincing us that we're at our best. A tourist is a temporarily leisured person who voluntarily visits a place away from home for the purpose of experiencing a change. This definition is taken from the opening of Hosts and Guests. I have no interest in falconry or falcons, and a generalized dislike of encounters with non-human animals. It would be another thing to approach the visit in an aspirational spirit.
When you travel, you suspend your usual standards for what counts as a valuable use of time. You suspend other standards as well, unwilling to be constrained by your taste in food, art, or recreational activities. After all, you say to yourself, the whole point of traveling is to break out of the confines of everyday life. But, if you usually avoid museums, and suddenly seek them out for the purpose of experiencing a change, what are you going to make of the paintings? You might as well be in a room full of falcons.
I affect to be intoxicated with sights and suggestions, but I am not intoxicated. He speaks for every tourist who has stood before a monument, or a painting, or a falcon, and demanded herself to feel something. Emerson and Percy help us understand why this demand is unreasonable. Whether an experience is authentically X is precisely what you, as a non-X, cannot judge. Pessoa said that he knew only one real traveler with soul, an office boy who obsessively collected brochures, tore maps out of newspapers, and memorized train schedules between far-flung destinations.
Which thrust him among people to whom he was forced to relate as a spectator. Chesterton believed that loving what is distant in the proper fashion, namely, from a distance, enabled a more universal connection. Travel prevents us from feeling the presence of those we have traveled such great distances to be near. The traveler departs confident that she will come back with the same basic interests, political beliefs, and living arrangements. What is mysterious is why we imbue it with a vast significance, an aura of virtue. If a vacation is merely pursuit of unchanging change,
Regardless of how the record sounds, some artists needed to go through some sort of quality inspection before pressing their songs to vinyl, making for some of the most questionable songs of their career and more than a few that should never be listened to again. Although a selection of these albums lived on as brilliant pieces of music in the minds. But listening to some of the early records makes fans wonder whether their favorite classic rock bands had lost their better judgment. What could have been a phenomenal record?
Humans are on track at the moment to be more destructive than an asteroid when it comes to loss of biodiversity. And that's only really thanks to our technological feats, our cultural ability to transmit information and create these amazing cities that we live in. That's all thanks to our intelligence. So in that sense, our intelligence has been really bad for the planet and the animals that live on it. This goes back to St. Augustine, the idea of original sin. The current form of human intelligence is potentially an awful thing for the rest of the biosphere. And I would say it actually.
Human intelligence has beaten back disease, allowed people around the world to communicate with each other, and to explore deep space and the ocean floor. That's the good news. It was his work with dolphins that first got him thinking how vaunting our intelligence as being uniquely superior to that of other animals has often become an exercise in our own arrogance and hubris. He adds that our intelligence is also responsible for species becoming extinct, thanks to human activities, at a rate that we've never seen in history other than an enormous asteroid hitting the Earth.
Coming from the animated film of the same name, the Beatles were tasked with making a soundtrack for the movie right as they were making some of their most ambitious material. With the backside of the LP consisting of orchestral music arranged by George Martin. Although they may not have claimed to be the greatest musicians in the world. Having a much more forceful presentation and sounding like being in the middle of the concert experience. When fans realize how infectious, they will probably see how much better material he has done in the past.
Although he might not have known how to play a single chord on any instrument, his way with melody and playing off the crowd during every Doors performance lit a fire in the belly of millions of stoned hippies. That energy usually got translated onto the tape, but the Soft Parade was the first time that formula had diminishing returns. While most of the band holds things together regarding their blues credentials, some of their attempts to incorporate other elements. The Doors decided to work outside their comfort zone doesn't mean the results are automatically good.